So, welcome to the Closer's Inner Circle podcast with me, Denise Griffitts, and my co host, legendary sales trainer and author Ben Gay III. And today we're asking a question that every salesperson really should consider. Is there still a place for old school sales skills? And in a world dominated by AI, automation, and digital selling, are the classic skills like relationship building, handwritten notes, and face to face conversations outdated? Or are they the secret advantage in today's hybrid digital marketplace? We'll explore which skills remain timeless, how human connection can still close deals, and how modern sales professionals can blend technology with those proven methods to stand out and succeed in sales. And before we get too far into this, if you want to keep up with the strategies that we talk about here on the Closers Inner Circle podcast, excuse me, make sure you grab a copy of the Closers books by Ben Gay. Now, these books are considered quite literally the sales Bibles for professionals around the world. They're packed with the same timeless principles and closing techniques that we discuss on this show every Wednesday. You can find the entire Closer series on eBay. Just look for Ronzoni Books, Ronzone Books, and they arrive with free shipping and they're signed by Ben. And they're the perfect way to stay on track with this and sharpen your skills between episodes. And I apologize, I'm losing my voice. My air conditioner is out. It's hot, so I'm crabby and I can't talk. So, Ben, you're up.
There is a God.
Oh, man. I'm leaving the room now. You're on your own.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning to you, young lady. I'm sorry that you're going through that. I don't take heat, humidity, etc. well either. And then you turn off the air conditioning and I'm moving somewhere. I don't know where I'm going. But I grew up in the South in Atlanta before air conditioning. Stores used to have big signs in front, chilled air, and then they have a arrow to their front door, and people would go in the store, I guess, probably spent some money, and just hang out because it beat home, it beat out on the street, etc. And I think I told you in the maybe last week, I worked at Macy's, so I got an employee discount and knew the stuff in the housewares department. So I gave my parents a swamp cooler, stood on 4 legs, about the size of a window air conditioning unit, but it was indoors on 4 legs. And I later found out that they only turned it on when they saw me pull in to visit, because they didn't want to hurt my feelings, or at least my mother didn't. But the truth was, the last thing they wanted was a swamp cooler that put more humidity in the house, moved hot air around and added humidity.
Yeah.
So
It's awful. It really is. And right now, my air conditioning guy can't get here for a few days, and I'm not real inclined to pay huge fees to get somebody. It's August. I mean, you're going to have to wait anyway. So he'll get here when he can get here. But in the meantime, I'm saying bad words a lot, and it's hurting my throat. So that's my excuse. I'll be walking. I was just telling you just now, and my dog she can't stand it either. And she was splayed out all over the living room. And normally she'll hop up and move if she sees me coming. And she didn't. I said, listen, if you see him coming your way, can you have the courtesy to move? And she just rolled over and said, nope, I'm not going to do it. So now I have to walk around the dog on top of everything else, but could be worse, right?
They're fascinating creatures. I've got a few notes from the week, and then we'll dig into what you just introduced. One person I was talking to said, how come you never mention Les Davis's SMI letter? I thought I had at some point in the past, but anyway, SMI was Success, Motivation, and Institute in Waco, Texas, Paul Meyer's operation. And his vice president in charge of sales, Les Davis, was their top salesperson. And then, this goes back a long time, 30, 40 years ago, Les had a massive heart attack. and was out for months. And when he returned, Paul had held his job for him, of course. When he returned and went back into the field, it wasn't working for him. The purpose of telling you this story, by the way, is mindset, the importance of mindset. So he goes back out in the field. He can't get in to see people. When he does, he's not selling. And he felt like, he said, if I were the vice president in charge of sales and I was me working for me, he said, I would have fired me. I wasn't showing any signs of success. And his wife, Lil, said, well, you used to teach sending out that letter you taught the SMI students to send it out if they were having trouble. Why don't we do that? This is before computers and word processors and so on, but she was one of those typists who can type faster than you can read. So she sat down, spent the weekend. She said, give me your prospect list, typing out the letter. What the letter said, I'm paraphrasing, don't have a copy of it, not sure I ever even saw it. But what the letter basically said was, I promised I would tell you the next time I was in your area to give you a heads up. And that was whether he'd ever talked to him about it or not. Didn't make any difference. People will assume that maybe they forgot or they skip over it and don't care. But I will be in your area on Wednesday, the 6th, and in your office at noon. Be happy to take you to lunch, whatever, but please schedule that in. And so on, the theory being that people wouldn't resist. It was sort of, I'm coming, whether you like it or not. So they mailed out, I'll make up a number, 25 of them or 30 or whatever. And their son was heading out in the big old red Cadillac convertible they had to do something. They said, here, mail these letters, please. That was on a Friday. He figured most people would have them by Monday because he was doing it locally. And everybody would have it by Tuesday. So Monday morning, bright and early, he hit the first office, walked in. Hi, Les Davis. I've got a 12 o'clock appointment with so-and-so. And right past the gatekeeper in, just like the good old days, talked to him, sold whatever percentage he was used to selling. And he was a very good salesman, and Success Motivation Institute had excellent products. It was recorded training, sort of like an early Nightingale Conant. And so he was suddenly back on top of the leaderboard, number one at SMI, which was quite an achievement with all their people, and rolling along. And after a couple of weeks of that, he told Lil, I really got my footing again. You don't have to type any more letters, which was a great relief for him. He said, for her, I've got my pattern back. And he continued on and did wonderfully well. And then left SMI, went over to Nightingale Conant, and became their vice president with even greater success and more money. So he said, I always thank that letter. It was so wonderful. It just opened doors and so on. Then, a couple, 3 years later, after that happened, they decided to sell the old red Cadillac convertible. And as a courtesy to the next owner and make sure they weren't giving up anything they wanted, they went through it, lifted out the seat cushions, went through the glove compartment and all. But under the seat cushion, the rear seat cushion, they found all of the letters that Lil had typed and they had given to Ronnie, their son, to mail. He threw them in the back seat like a typical teenager, went about his business. People got in and out of the car, I guess. People sat down. The letters slipped under the seat. Les went from a failing salesperson at one of the most successful sales training companies on earth back to number one, based on the strength that a letter he had originally written and taught to everybody else, based on the strength of a letter that never got mailed. They were under the seat cushion in the back. Now,
But
there's a
he
great
had set his own expectations and he followed that.
that's right. And mindset. He, it's, I've taught for years a thing called I am, which is caught on now. I don't get credit for it much, but I think I found it in the Bible originally.
It
But it
had to be
was,
because that's where I've learned it. I am. I am of
yeah,
God. I am God. I am.
right. And my theory was I was talking about goal setting that day. And, you got to set goals. You got to get in. Somehow it came to me, and I said, no, I'm wrong. You have to claim goals. I am successful. I am well dressed. I am, blah, blah, blah. I am, I am, I am. And that was sort of Les's version of I am. I'm going to be there at noon. I expect to be greeted, willing to buy your lunch if necessary, but I'm coming in. We had a
Right.
guy call on us one day to sell us blinds for the house, and pretty good size house, and two stories. Uh, One flight goes up to a couple of bedrooms, and the other flight at the other end of the house goes up to another couple of bedrooms. So he opens the door. We've since become friends, but I'd never seen him before in my life. And Mike Owens is his name. Opened the door. I said, "Hi, Ben Gay." And he says, "I'm Mike Owens. How are you?" And he had a clipboard. He says, "All right." So I'm paraphrasing, but all right, show me the windows we're talking about. Let's get rolling. He went through the whole house, upstairs, downstairs. I'm sort of in my head counting quickly, probably 30 windows, I'm guessing, and went through them, measured them, and came back and sat down in the living room. And he said, Mr. Gay, I'll be polite to you if you want and include you in this, but I know who's going to make the decisions. Mrs. Gay. And she said, call me Gigi. So now he's in the family. He said, Gigi, do you want wood or vinyl? And I think for some reason we got some of each. But that decision was made. And what color? White, this, and so on. Most of them are white. And he wrote it up and then said, okay, and handed me the thing to sign. And so on. There was a complete. It was the best assumptive sale I've ever seen. It was not, I'd like to measure your windows, and maybe when I asked for the order, barged past in a friendly way, barged past me, started measuring windows, asking for directions around the house, measured them, came back down and said, what color do you want, wood or vinyl? What color do you want? All of which are closing questions. Wrote up the order, figured out what the dollar amount was, and handed me the thing. He said, here we go. So that's mindset. Mike, who's now running a winery, I'm afraid to go there for fear I'll come back with a truckload of wine. Mike was an assumptive salesman. He had I am written all over him, and he had the courage of Les Davis with the imaginary letters that he had sent out. And you nailed that perfectly when you talked about his mindset, and he expected to be welcomed and expected to be whatever. And I said, Les, did it affect your sales from that point on? Because he used a similar thing at Nightingale Conant. He said, no. By then I was back up and running, but he said, I'm glad I didn't find out in the first few weeks or months
No
that the letters
kidding.
had never been mailed. He said, because I wasn't that strong yet.
You know
And
what they should have done with those letters? Every Christmas from there on, their kid would have gotten one of those letters in his Christmas doll. Remember this?
the funny thing is, Ronnie was his name. Ronnie could claim a victory. Well, it gave you the courage to go out, Dad.
Yeah, there
Uh,
is that. But still, I would have tormented him. It's just, you can't give
I'm
up
with you.
something that easy.
I thought of that one day when Gigi was talking about her brother David. He died 4th of July coming up. Let's see, two. It was 2 years ago,
2 years ago.
past
Yeah,
July 4th.
I remember.
And anyway, a local guy. It's a small town, and all the community leaders know one another. And so on. And my father-in-law was a county supervisor, successful insurance guy, successful real estate. Everybody knew him. And a equally popular guy called him one day and said, "Joe, I hate to bother you, but I've got a problem." He said, "What?" He said, "One of your kids, I know it's not you, is dumping your trash in my," he had a large piece of property. "So throwing your trash over my fence." He said, "Oh, no, that's not possible." He said, "Joe, I have your electricity bill in my hand. I have this in my hand. I have this in my hand," and so on. It was the load David had been sent to the dump with. And, but, with $10 or whatever. So he kept the $10 and threw it over a fence into a friend's yard.
Ouch.
So David went to his grave saying, "I've never caught so much hell in my life for an early mistake." But that was Ronnie just lost him in the car. David threw it over the fence.
But lessons
And
were learned.
yeah, oh yeah, you probably only do that. He'd probably done it several times. But when the phone call came, that was the end of, he's taking things to the dump for us, because you never want to be the only person in a family with a pickup truck, because you're involved in every move and every run to the dump and so on. And David was that guy for us. So, and our son, we have four, but Gigi's biological son, Tony, just got a truck. And I said that for his work, really luxurious. I haven't been inside a pickup in years. It's like a Cadillac with a bed in the back. But I said, "You haven't been listening to the stories, have you?" And he said, "What do I mean?" I said, I've told you as you listen to stories, never be the guy in the family with a pickup truck, because now you're going to be involved in any move we have, any dump runs we have,
Christmas
picking up
shopping.
picking up a new sofa, whatever. If I were you, I'd put that under a tarp so no one knew you have a pickup truck. So
Yeah, it does
uh,
happen. It really does.
that's Les Davison mindset. And then someone said, "Oh, I was talking to Jason Williford, who's writing the Ben Gay the Third biography. Ben Gay the
I
Third,
know. I have been
born
interviewed.
born to be." I hope you said nice things.
Well, yeah, but
Okay.
you owe me $10.
Now, let me read the book first.
Okay.
The uh, anyway, I was talking to him, and we were talking about, he wanted to know the airplane part of my life. When I was running Holiday Magic, the owner of the company was a flying fanatic and wound up killing himself in a P-51 Mustang up at our ranch. And so we were going through the airplanes. We had the only flying B-29 in the world at the time. It was the Fertile Myrtle, the plane that dropped Chuck Yeager in the rocket plane when he broke the sound barrier back in, I think, 1948. And we had a Ford Trimotor, which are used by bush pilots up in Alaska, and a Learjet and a Gulfstream and this and that. Total of 40 some odd airplanes. But we also had a Cessna dealership. So a lot of those planes were either for sale or we used them in our flight school. So we ran through them all in little stories. And then a few days ago, I sat up straight in bed and I said, I didn't tell him about the DC-6. The DC-6B. I don't know what the difference is, but apparently there's a difference. That's right before the jet commercial airliners came in. It was a prop plane, belonged to the Chicago. Is it White Sox that are Chicago, and Red Sox are in Boston, I guess. But anyway, the Chicago baseball team, I will call them the White Sox. It was their plane, 42 seats, all first class, private cabin that sat 6 people, with, complete with a door, not a curtain, etc. And Bill Patrick found it, liked it, and said, "Okay." So he bought it, and he called me and he said, I got a great tool for you. And I said, what's that? He said, I got a DC-6B. And I said, oh, joy, another airplane to pay for. That's great. And I was not the flying enthusiast in the group, but I went out and looked at it, and suddenly I saw a sales tool, probably the best one I've ever had. A couple of days of thinking about it and refinement. Here's how we used it. We had 2 stewardesses on board most of the time, cabin attendants, I guess I'm supposed to call them, but 2 good-looking cabin attendants, and a pilot and a co-pilot, and it might have even had a flight engineer on that type of plane. And here was the deal. Let's say you were in Atlanta, and we would fly the DC-6B into Atlanta and give you a free round-trip ticket, trip on the DC-6B to San Rafael to see the home office, to at least go on one of our yachts, if not take a ride on it, maybe to be flown around in one of the smaller airplanes, or take a ride in the Learjet or whatever, tour the home office, meet everybody that was there to meet. And the deal was, your ticket was getting on, as you got on the plane, you had to show a cashier's check for $5,000. That paid for your master distributorship and your general distributorship, and made out to yourself. You just had to show it as you got on the plane. And then we put you through the trip and everything. And when you got back on the plane, that cabin I told you about was in use, because the local vice president, Atlanta in this example, and a vice president that was on board the airplane all the time, that was his permanent station, would take you 2, 3, 4 at a time back to the cabin, and that was the closing room. Now we don't have to discuss if you have the money or not. You have the money in your pocket in a cashier's check or certified check made out to yourself. And you've just been through a rather impressive tour, couple-of-day tour of the facilities, and you've met Bill Patrick and me and all of our other top people that were in the home office. And all we needed you to do was answer any last questions you had, sign the back of the check, and we were done. Now, you didn't get 42 prospects on the plane, because frequently it was a man and a wife, but you had 24 at least buying units on the plane. I don't think I did the math right. 21 buying units on the plane, husband and wife being a buying unit. Some people came by themselves. Some people came with whoever lent them the money. But to my knowledge and remembrance, Denise, we never missed a person. It was 100% closing rate. If you got on the plane, you were already financed, however you did it, or you wouldn't be on the plane.
You were a warm market, big time.
Yeah. And you were a hot market by the time you went through the tour, because it was one of the few times where all of Bill Patrick's toys actually paid off. We didn't need a 120-foot yacht. We didn't need a 151-foot yacht. We didn't need 42 airplanes. We didn't need a 3,500-acre ranch. Lots of things we didn't need. But when they flew out on the DC-6B and saw all that stuff, suddenly I could make money with all those toys. And that's how we did it. So it was a flying closing machine. And some of you are doing well enough or have a big enough company where you can do something similar. Just give it some thought. They get to do everything for free, but they have to prove, getting on the plane, the boat, the train, whatever, they have to prove that if they're happy with what they see, they could go forward. And it was the most, I was even, I felt like hush my mouth. I'm thinking about getting another DC-6B. And I was one who was always fighting. We don't need another airplane.
All
We have
right.
42 of them. For God's sake, stop.
You're
Bill
talking
was,
about planes, but I fell asleep the other night listening to How to Sell Your Way Through Life by Napoleon Hill, and I woke up because I always fall asleep. And I woke up and I went, oh, I remember Ben telling me how much Dr. Hill loved to fly in those planes. He would
he
I think
did.
he told me he would make excuses to come from his home to California just so he could, I think it was the Learjet, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Lear was his favorite plane
Yeah.
on Earth. I think it was a good looking, Lears are good looking little planes to start with. We had virtually the first one, the Lear 23A or 23B, something like that. It sat 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. In normal seating, it sat 7 people. Then there was a jump seat. It was actually a toilet that nobody used because it was right in the middle of the cabin. So we could put or 7, we could put an 8th person on that, and it didn't require a co-pilot. We usually had one because Art Stagg, our corporate pilot, just preferred that. It was safer. But if the co-pilot wasn't available, whatever, I usually sat there so we could fly 10 passengers in that really little bitty plane. And he loved it. Dr. Hill loved it. I disliked it so much. We had a rule: if the Learjet was available for you and your little team to go somewhere, you had to take it because it was cheaper than commercial. So what I would do is I would make up something that somebody had to do in Los Angeles and send them to LA from Northern California in the Learjet, so it was out of town and I could fly commercial because I prefer TWA or American First Class. Thank you very much.
The
Where
things
they
that we
actually had,
do just to be comfortable. He sent the
yeah.
Learjet away. That's
Yeah,
funny.
I'd say to Marty, my assistant secretary boss, I'd say to Marty, get that Lear out of town. I've got to go to New York. So she'd make up something and somebody would be on it and it'd be gone. And as soon as the wheels left the ground, I was headed for the airport for TWA or American or whatever. Because it was too small. We didn't have a stewardess on board because there would be nothing for him or her to do. Didn't have a kitchen. The toilet was a jump seat. We used to tell everybody, when you get on board, make sure you've just gone to the bathroom because we don't want you pooping in front of, where my feet are. And
Now,
so,
I think in pictures, right? That's just pathetic.
pardon me. The funny thing about the Learjet to me, it's still used in some of my publicity pictures with a big Holiday Magic crest on the tail and so on. Is from the outside, it was as sexy as a plane can get. From the inside, it was a flying coffin.
Oh,
So people go, "Oh, isn't that beautiful?" And I go, "Yep." And then Art Stagg would say, "Quit talking. We have to get in the plane and go." I said, "I don't want to get in the plane and go. It's miserable in there." After you get through waving to the local distributors and the hatch comes up and down, it went both ways, and the hatch goes up and down and the door shuts. Everybody who's used to the Learjet, not impressed by it, maybe their first flight, they're still going, ooh. An hour and a half later, they're over that thrill.
yeah. Are we
And
there yet? Yeah, I can hear it now.
yeah, you find them sneaking peeks at their watch. So most of them are bigger now and have more amenities, I'm sure. But I was not a big fan of it. But Dr. Hill would make up reasons to come to California, so we'd send the Learjet and pick him up. He, for some reason, loved it. He was older by then and not bouncing around trying to do things. So I guess he just liked the excitement of it. And Art Stagg would tell me when he picked him up, there were always 10 or 12 people standing around to watch Dr. Hill take off. So he would
Oh,
draw, they're sending a Learjet for me. Come out and see it. And back then, corporate jets were not that common. If you landed there was a place in the Southeast called the Tri-City area. One of them is Kingsport, Tennessee, and I forget what the other two are. Whenever we were going in to give a speech or hold a seminar or something, the locals always knew. The first time we flew into Kingsport, Tennessee in the Lear, we had more people at the airport to see it than I think lived in Kingsport, Tennessee. Now you wouldn't even notice it. There's so many of them flying around or parked at the airport. So that's the DC-6B story. If you can figure out a way to use a car, a limousine, a train, an airplane, a yacht, whatever, and get them to prove they can pay for whatever it is you're selling at the end, get one and use it aggressively. Oh, cute little story about that. I'll get off the DC-6B. One day, Marty came in to my office, and she says, "We need to talk." Well, that was like having my wife say, "We need to talk." Marty, to a degree, ran our family and the business and me. Marcia, my wife at the time, you say, "I love Marty, but I'm sort of afraid of her." I said, well,
I bet.
that's her plan. That's the way she operates. And she says, "We have to talk," and shuts the door, sits down, which she normally didn't do, sat down at the conference table and says, "All right, enough with Chuck Childress and the airplane." Chuck Childress was a guy, well, I think he's gone now. I wouldn't tell the story if I thought he was alive, but Chuck was not one of our fireball vice presidents of sales, to the point he didn't have a region. But I was loyal to him, and when we took his region away, I thought, what are we going to do with him? And somebody said, put him on the plane. So
Oh, I remember this story. Keep going.
he became the resident vice president of sales on the DC-6. And then when it took off from Atlanta, the vice president of the Southeast was also on it because those were his people. When it took off from Chicago, the vice president of the Midwest was on it. But the one constant was Chuck Childress flying around on the DC-6. And so I said, "Chuck, get on the DC-6. Looking back and the way Marty told the story, I know what I must have said. "Chuck, I want you to get on the DC-6. It's a good life, all first class, two people to take care of you, etc. And a private cabin that'll be your office and workspace, but when it's not, it's a private cabin." And he said, fine. He was enthusiastic about it. Well, 6 months, a year go by, whatever it was, and Marty needs to talk to me. It turns out Chuck, she says to me, "It's time we got Chuck off that plane." I said, "Why?" "They got 100% closing rate. It's working well." She said, "Ben, he has a family. He needs to see his family. And the only time he sees them is when they land and they're here, in Marin County, the Bay Area, is when they land. They go out and they see him and they visit him on the plane." I said, "Why didn't he go home? He lives here." "Because you told him to get on the plane and not to get his ass off of it."
Oh my gosh.
And I said, "He's been on that plane for whatever it was, 8 months, let's say." She said, "Yeah, you told him to get on the plane and don't get off of it." I said, "Oh my God." I'm so sorry.
I'm surprised you didn't have a visit from his wife, or maybe she was fine with it. So
it's possible she
yeah.
was shy or happy.
I'm going to go with happy. I'm going to go with happy.
But it was a great management lesson, because when you point and you're the boss and people say yes to you and so on, be careful what you're saying and how you phrase it. Get on the plane meant to me, you're assigned to that plane. When it's in town, you'll be home. When it's on the road, you'll be on it. Better than being regional vice president of fill in the blank, because if they don't live in their area, they don't ever go home. Or if they think it's temporary, they don't ever go home. But get on the plane and stay there. In Chuck Childress's case, ran up to 6, 8 months or a year, and finally got Marty to explode in my face. So that's that on that. Tell me, I know what we're going to discuss. You want me to plunge on with your throat, or do you want to ask me some questions?
Well, I'll try to talk as best as I can. My voice is just raw. When I get overheated, I cough a lot and then that just tears my throat up. But in your view, we do talk about traditional sales skills a lot, but we're also in the throes of AI and automation and digital everything. And, I will often hear people say, just pick up the phone. People don't even think to pick up the phone and say, hey, can I come see you? I'm going to, or like your friend, I'm going to be in your office, send a letter. So many of these, I think, very simple, very basic skills are being overlooked. What do you
I
think?
agree. I agree. And if our friend and cohort, Randy Chaffee, is listening
He's
today,
always
or
listening. Hey, Randy.
yeah, he's thinking, I hope to mention my book. I hope they mention my book. I
Oh,
haven't got
well, yeah, me
my
either.
official copy yet,
Me
but
either.
he
So
told me.
we'll say to him, until you give us books, just we'll leave you to talk about. But it's a great book. I've read the PDF and I wrote a review for it, and you wrote the foreword for it. So
Yeah, and I read the drafts as they went along, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't gotten the book in my hands.
Asphalt
But
and Algorithms, I think it's
right,
called.
asphalt to algorithms, and he covers this exact point. Randy has been a, get in your car, do what's necessary, go here, go there guy for over 40 years. He's got as much gray hair as I do. I'm older than he is, but I know what he's talking about. He's a true road warrior in the finest sense. He's been out there driving cars, flying in planes for over 40 years. I think we're coming up on 50. And a real sales pro. I don't really know. I know a lot of people are making money in selling, but they're not making it and didn't make it the way us older guys did. Road warriors living it. How I used to think Howard Johnson. Uh, I told my wife at the time, if we could paint our house orange, I'd feel more at home because I lived in Howard Johnson's and Hyatt's and Sheridan's and so on the road all the time. I gave over 300 speeches a year, and none of them in our hometown. They were all somewhere else, and you got to get there and get back. So 300 speeches is rather impressive, but it makes you a road warrior or a Learjet warrior or whatever. I once gave 33 speeches, seminars in 33 different cities in 11 days, thanks mainly to the Learjet and my basic stamina. But Randy has written this book, Asphalt, that's in your car, to algorithms, meaning the new world, which still has a lot of asphalt in it, and trade shows. He's going to write a book for the Closers series, he and Wes Wyatt, about how to work trade shows, which are a lot of people go, I don't want to sit in the booth for 4 days. Well,
Oh, yeah, you do. Listen, as a jeweler, I went to a lot of trade shows and I was surrounded by gemstones of all cuts, colors. It's amazing. It's fascinating. It's like going to the circus. It really
and
is.
when somebody knows how to work a trade show, they are like being let into Fort Knox with a burlap bag to load up whatever you want. So that's his next one. I think they're two really important sales books, Asphalt to Algorithms, which I'll have in my hand in a day or two. I was told it was mailed a day or two ago. I might have it as early as today. And
Well,
he
if
covered,
you get yours first and you tell me about it, I'm going to call him.
yeah, I would if I were you. I,
Yeah, and he doesn't want to hear from me. So, Randy, if you're listening, you have my address.
But to those of you who are listening, it's available on Amazon. They'll take your order and ship it in the next day or so. It's available on Amazon and all the usual places. And it is a good read that covers exactly what you're talking about, because now it's a blend. He said sometimes he feels like a keyboard warrior working from home, but he's also in his car and he wears wild socks, each with
He
a message.
does.
Yeah, about road warrior or something, because that's where his heart is. But what he's done is blend the two. As I was saying that, I got a mental picture. I can picture Randy in his hotel room or the local coffee shop with his laptop out doing the algorithm side of selling while he's in another town because he's there for a trade show or he's there to call on somebody in person. He does it all. He blends it smoothly. And so if you're in that little niche in our sales world now, get a hold of Asphalt Algorithms by Randy Chaffee, Chaffee. And I think you'll love it. I was just telling Denise, I've read it in bits and pieces. I got a chapter here, a chapter there, and I wrote the foreword for it, and it is strong. And then when it comes out, I think it'll be the closers part 7 when it comes out. If you do trade shows, uh, get a copy of that because he's made a lot of money in trade shows because he knows how to work. And Wes Wyatt has too with a different line of products. He knows how to work a trade show. And as I said that, it dawned on me I should also say, if you don't do trade shows, get a copy of the book because you're missing out. I
Yeah. Yeah.
with my
And let's
father as a
go
yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say, for people who don't know who Randy is or why he does what he does, it started in COVID. COVID
Mhm.
made him completely rethink how he was going to be in sales because everything was shut down. You weren't supposed to go anywhere. And he said, I am not going to just dump my clients and the people that he works for, that he represents. He said, I have to find another way. And by golly, he did. And now he's merged them. I mean, he didn't wait to merge them. It was what he started doing from the very beginning. And he has just gone bonkers with it. And I'm so proud
Sure
of him.
has.
I interviewed him on your Partner in Success Radio in the early days of this. I think it was during COVID. And I'm not even sure how I met him. People come and say, can I be on your show? Sure, if you're interesting and I like you. Those two things, you have to be interesting and I have to like you. But once I figured out what he was doing, I was fascinated. I went, well, good for you. COVID didn't slow
he
him down at all.
and he now has 2 businesses basically. He can be a asphalt road warrior and do fine. He's done fine for many years, and people know him, and he's welcome in their offices. Uh, he's one of those people that they know the secret of selling. They know, like, trust, and with whom they feel confident.
All right.
When you're on the computer, the same formula is there, but it's a little more difficult to create that feeling. But he could go either way. He could be 100% asphalt. He could be 100% algorithm. He's figured out a way to do them both. On the road, he's on the computer. Uh, when he's doing asphalt things, he's setting up an algorithm relationship. Now, it's hard to get known, like, trusted on the computer. Not all that difficult, but it takes a little extra time.
You have to be
And
consistent with it. Anybody who's
yeah,
listening, if you I'm going to do this for 10 weeks and see what happens. Nope. You show up and you be consistent with it. You always show up and you always bring good information.
and if you want to do a little test, which is not out of the question, make the test about 10 years.
Or in my
But,
case, 17 and a half.
yeah. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to Nolan Bush, a dear friend of mine. He's the guy I may have told you where I was sent by another old friend and mentor of mine. Merle Fraser called one day and he said, could you and Rucker zip up to Jackson, Mississippi and do a meeting for me? I can't get there and I got 500 people coming, and I'll make it worth your while somehow. And I said, yeah, we went through a driving rainstorm. It was in a gym. We walked in, it was set up for 500 people. I said, I got to get in fresh clothes. I went down to the locker room to swap out. 10 or 15 minutes later, it was showtime, and Rucker came in, my running buddy, if you're new to the show, and said, he's ready. I said, all right. I said, he's ready? What does that mean? He said, well, there's one person out there. He is ready. I said, it's supposed to be 500. He said, I don't know what it's supposed to be. He is out there. Well,
Pay
it turned
attention,
out
Ben. Listen to me, Ben.
I'm trying to speak slowly where you can understand this. It turned out his running buddy and partner, Winston Hoffman, was in the bathroom or something. So we had only 498 empty chairs. And my point in telling you this was in 1965. Tomorrow, I do it all the time, but tomorrow at noon, Nolan Bush and I will be doing business together from 1965. What was that? 35, 45, 50. We're in our 60th year of doing business one-on-one. And people have said, and I sort of get it, well, it's easy for you. You've known a lot of these people for decades. I said, right. Pardon me. That's easier for me, but I had to put in the time. There was a day when it was my first day. I suggest you make it your first day. And then, since people buy from people they know, like, trust, and with whom they feel safe, you're building your audience. I have thousands of people like that all over the English-speaking world, and in some cases using translators who've been doing business with me 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 years. And people who are newer know, like, and trust me quicker because they know about my background.
Right.
You know, I said, a guy said to me one day, this is a long time ago, but I thought it was so cute. He said, we're on the phone. He said, Mr. Gay, you trained, and he was buying the closers and going through one of our seminars. He said, you trained my father. I said, wow, that's nice to know. He said, in fact, you trained my grandfather. I said, wow, that's interesting. He said, how old are you?
I was waiting for it.
I said, well, it's a good question, but the answer is I started young, and that's how I've gotten, I was broke. Somebody asked me just the other day on LinkedIn or somewhere, what was your motivation to get started? And I wrote back, poverty.
Yeah, I'll do it every time. I needed to buy cat food.
Yeah. My wife was looking at me with this stricken look, like, should I go back home where they have food? So my first serious job, where I had to get up, put on a suit, and go do stuff, was working for my father as a food broker. And Rucker and I were broke. We didn't make much money with him. And because that type of work, retail, detail, food broker, salesperson, doesn't pay much. Adjusted for inflation, it still doesn't pay much. So, but we had good products. We had Stofers, etc., and we kept coolers in the cars because in every store, until I had what I needed, I was thinking about dinner tonight. So you'd pick up a box of Stofers or 2 boxes or whatever, a meat and a vegetable maybe, and put your thumb through the cardboard out thing, then take it as you were leaving up to the manager and say, let me give you credit for this. Somebody damaged these, and I'll give you credit for them. Take them out, put them in the car, in the cooler. And that's the reason I could afford to be a retail detail salesperson. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner were covered by damaged products I miraculously found in grocery stores by the lines we carried. I developed a real love and appreciated your gift the other day of the Tabasco sauce selection, because Tabasco sauce, the McElhenney family, were clients of my father.
Yeah, they're
So,
right down the road from me.
yeah, you don't have to steal much Tabasco sauce to sauce things up, but
No.
it made the stolen food I had from Stouffer's and Morton House and Chicken of the Sea and Jesse Jewell made those meals taste a lot better. So I would, what drove you into it? Uh, I said poverty, and she wrote back, I was told you were a man of few words. And I said, true.
I could have, made it easier and just said I was broke. Really
Yeah,
broke.
well, that's what it was.
Poverty, though, looks, it evokes, like the streets of, Dickens streets where there's little waifs in the corner and you're just starving to death and you have a crutch under your arm. Broke doesn't sound nearly as romantic.
The and then back to our subject matter, because we'll run out of time here pretty quick. Old versus new. I sort of dislike that because, as you know, I don't think there's been a whole lot of change in selling except for the vehicle. The computer gives you a different vehicle to ride. When you get there, the customer still wants to know, do I know, like, trust you, even if it's a fresh relationship? Do I feel safe with you? And then the overriding question that's been true in selling since the Yankee silk traders and the India silk trader and the Yankee peddlers riding around on horseback in New England, what the customer always wants to know, and you must be prepared, whether it's by algorithm, I'll use that as a coverall for computer, whether it's by algorithm or hand-to-hand combat in their office, having gotten there by asphalt, what they want to know is what's in it for me.
No
And
kidding.
you must be able to explain that in a tested, proven manner. The script may vary a little bit from this person to this person or this situation to this situation, but whether they say it out loud or not, and they rarely do, there's always one question in the air. What's in it for me? If I'm in a store or somewhere where a salesperson is doing that, or even on the computer or the internet, whatever, they don't know it, but I'm listening to the presentation thinking, okay, that's good. I got that. Understand that. What's in it for me? Got that. Understand that. Okay. What's in it for me? And if when we get down to the end, I don't see anything in it for me, the finest product on sale won't sell me. Because if there's nothing in it for me that exceeds the cash I have in my pocket, I'm not buying. Because it's a transfer. All you're saying is, I have my widget in my hand here, and I want to hand it to you, and you have money, credit card, whatever, checkbook in your pocket, and I want you to hand me that. We're going to exchange value. And if I, the customer, don't think I'll be at least as well off as I am now, or better off than I am now, I'm not doing the transfer. It's that simple. I may like and trust you. I may think you're a great guy. But even more important than that is you got to answer what's in it for me. And that's whether you're doing it by algorithm or asphalt, by airplane or car, by train or boat. What's in it for me is the overriding thing that has never changed and will never change. You might be a keyboard warrior, but you got to answer that question and you got to figure out a way to get known, liked, trusted with whomever, and have them feel like I'm safe when I'm with you. And then back to the length in the business, they'll say, well, you've been at it a long time and so on. I can build the initial steps enough to make a sale of know, like, trust, and feel safe with me in 4 or 5 minutes, which is good because the prospect, when he looks at you, he or she looks at you, makes up their mind to a large degree in the first 15 seconds. They look
Or
at
when they
you and
listen to you as well. I make all of my sales 100% on the phone.
yep, yep, and
And it's not
and you're
difficult.
crossing
And
that.
you know why? I'll tell you why. Because I'm listening more than I'm talking.
Hmm. It was said of Nelson Mandela, although he was a brave, spent years locked in a small prison cell, great speaker. I don't know where he learned that skill, but he did. And so on. But his power was that he was a dynamic listener.
Hmm.
And I've never known anybody who was a great leader, great salesperson, or whatever, or read about one. And I've read hundreds of books on the subject over the years. Somewhere in every book, you'll find something like, when I was with him or her, I felt as if I were the most important person in the world, or the only person in the world. Bill
You said
Clinton
that
was
about
famous one.
Ray Considine.
Yep.
When you went to
Yeah.
his funeral, you were prepared to be, his best friend, and then you saw the other 500.
Yeah, and that still sort of aggravates me because I was Ray Considine's best friend. There were 499 imposters in that church who, to a person, believed they were his best friend because he
That's a
had that
gift.
ability. He listened. He made you think you were funny and charming. He hung on every word. And he sort of did what Johnny Carson did with a guest he liked. He'd feed you the next line. He'd ask you a little short question that he knew fit into what you were doing to lead you into saying whatever you were going to say next. And I think I told you, he was handsome. He was a male model when he was young, several inches over 6 feet, handsome, blondish hair. By the time I knew him, he was white haired. And when he met Gigi for the first time, we went out to dinner. We got in the car and were leaving. She said, "I love Ray Considine." I said, "Well, he likes you too, honey. He's a really neat guy." She said, "No, I love Ray Considine." I said, "Easy, easy.
Calm down. Calm down.
He's
Yeah,
married. We're married."
no, you calm down. It's okay. She was saying something else entirely. She just loved him. But yeah, I get that. You meet people like that and you just instantly are drawn to them because there's something that is so integral to who they are that you can't help but be attracted to them.
And somebody, I think it was Mary Kay, and maybe she stole it from Dale Carnegie. Somebody said, everyone you meet, picture a sign around their neck that says, "Make me feel important."
Mm. I don't think it was her, but I've heard that we are. Now I have to go find out who that was. We are out of time, and I wanted to ask him. We'll talk about this next time, but our question next week will be if, from me to you, if a young salesperson only learned modern sales tactics, what classic skills would you insist? And I mean insist that they master first and why. So remember that. We'll talk about it next time. So
All
Ben,
right.
any last thoughts? And where do you, we didn't answer, we didn't have any questions this week. We ran out of time.
Well, I had a couple of comments up front that came from conversation, so we're pretty much caught up on that line. If you want to understand where I'm coming from, start digging through the Closers series. We just agreed to publish the Closers Part 6. A lovely lady who we're talking to currently is about to publish the Closers Part 4 on podcasting. But go to stores.ebay.com/Ronzoni Books, RONZONEBOOKS, all one word, and start digging into the Closers. People say, "I'd give anything in the world to know what you know about selling." And I usually say, "Good news. Doesn't cost but a few bucks." I wrote it all down and had friends who are specialists in their area write it down. Everything you need to know about selling has been written, printed, and is for sale.
Absolutely. And now I have to mention that we are sponsored by, because this is important, This episode of the Closers in a Circle podcast is sponsored by me, my other show, Your Partner in Success Radio. Really, that's where this all started. And that's another story, isn't it, Ben? But for more than 17 and a half years. I mean, this thing is now old enough to drive, and come January, it can vote. That's frightening. But for the last 17 and a half years, I've been talking with business leaders, authors, and entrepreneurs from literally all over the world and sharing conversations that inspire growth and real success. And in fact, that's where Ben and I met many years ago. You can find all of our episodes, the Closers Inner Circle podcast, on yourpartnerinsuccessradio.com. So come listen and meet some truly incredible people. And by the way, we are accepting sponsors now for both shows. So if you have any interest, let us know. I'll send you the information. So Ben, thank you. I will see you next Wednesday.
Bless you. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Pray for my air conditioner.
It's in my prayers.
Thank you. I'll see you next week.